Before we begin, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because stories like this rarely get told honestly. We watched Storage Wars for the thrill, the shouting, the fast bids, and the fantasy that one lucky locker could change a life forever. For years, Dan Dodson's rapid-fire auction calls controlled chaos, Daryl Sheets chased fortune with fearless confidence, and Hester thrived on confrontation that kept viewers glued to their screens. These weren't just reality TV personalities, they became symbols of risk, power, and sudden wealth. But when the cameras stopped rolling and the applause faded, fame did not leave quietly. It collapsed. What followed were health crises, lawsuits, broken families, financial instability, and careers that never fully recovered. This is not a story about lockers or auctions anymore. This is the story of what happened after the bidding stopped, when the spotlight moved on. When fame became the only safety net, and that net suddenly disappeared. The truth is uncomfortable, emotional, and deeply human, and it reveals why so many of the original faces of Storage Wars are struggling today in ways no one ever expected. When Storage Wars first premiered, it was never meant to become a cultural phenomenon. The idea was simple and almost modest: abandoned storage units, fast-paced auctions, and everyday people gambling on the unknown. There were no scripts, no celebrities, no grand promises, just instinct, luck, and risk. But simplicity quickly turned into spectacle. Within a few seasons, the show transformed ordinary auctioneers and bidders into recognizable television stars. Dan and Laura Dodson became the steady heartbeat of the series, guiding chaos with calm authority. Daryl Sheets turned reckless bidding into a personal brand. Hester embraced conflict so aggressively that he became the villain audiences loved to hate. As ratings grew, so did expectations. What began as a job slowly reshaped identities. Appearances increased, side businesses thrived, and social media relevance followed. Auction houses filled faster because cameras were present. Thrift stores saw more foot traffic because faces were familiar. Fame didn't just enhance their lives, it restructured them. Storage Wars stopped being entertainment and became the foundation holding everything else together. And when your entire life rests on one platform, its collapse is never gentle. The real danger wasn't fame itself, but dependence on it. As the show grew, many cast members unknowingly built their entire financial and emotional stability around continued visibility. Television exposure fueled speaking engagements, sponsorships, merchandise, spin-offs, and online attention. The cameras validated their importance. The applause reinforced their relevance. Slowly, without warning, fame became a necessity rather than a bonus. When Storage Wars was abruptly placed on hiatus in 2019 due to internal financial pressures at A&E, there was no gradual transition, no farewell season, no structured exit. One moment the show was a long-running success. The next, it was simply gone. For viewers, it felt like a pause. For the cast, it felt like a free fall. Income streams dried up overnight. Businesses tied to television traffic struggled to survive on reputation alone. The silence was deafening. The emotional toll was immediate and brutal. Years of public validation were replaced with uncertainty. And for many, this sudden absence forced a terrifying question they had never prepared for. Who are you when the camera stops caring? Among the original cast, Dan and Laura Dodson appeared to be the most stable. They weren't gamblers chasing luck. They were professionals who controlled the rhythm of every auction. Their marriage and business partnership existed long before television fame, giving the impression that they were immune to reality TV chaos. On screen, their chemistry felt effortless. Dan's rapid cadence, Laura's sharp authority, and their subtle coordination made them seem unshakable. But behind the scenes, their private lives were under immense pressure. In 2014, Dan Dodson suffered a double brain aneurysm, a life-threatening medical emergency that nearly killed him. Recovery was long, painful, and humbling. For a man whose livelihood depended on commanding aggressive crowds, vulnerability was not something he was used to showing. The show continued, but the strain never fully disappeared. Later, another incident nearly cost him a finger while breaking up a dog fight, reminding him how fragile life had become. Then came the moment that eclipsed everything else. Their son Garrett was caught in a shooting and required emergency surgery. Fame meant nothing in that moment. Survival was all that mattered. When Storage Wars went on hiatus in 2019, the timing could not have been worse for the Dodsons. Health scares, family trauma, and financial uncertainty collided at once. Unlike bidders who could step away, Dan and Laura were deeply tied to the infrastructure of the show itself. Auctions were not just a TV role, they were their livelihood. They shifted their focus entirely to American auctioneers, running auctions across California to keep stability alive. This wasn't a backup plan. It was a lifeline. When the show eventually returned, Dan and Laura returned too, but something had fundamentally changed. Television was no longer the center of their world. Survival was. Their story is not one of triumph, but endurance, holding a marriage together, protecting family, managing health. In a genre built on disposable personalities, the Dodsons remained standing not because fame protected them, but because they learned how to live without depending on it. Daryl Sheets built his reputation on fearlessness. On Storage Wars, he was the bidder willing to risk everything on instinct alone. While others hesitated, Daryl leaned in harder, trusting his gut and his luck. That confidence paid off spectacularly when he uncovered artwork later valued at nearly $300,000, the largest single profit in the show's history. To viewers, he became proof that boldness could beat caution. But the lifestyle that fueled that legend came at a cost his body could no longer absorb. In 2019, Daryl suffered back-to-back heart attacks that required emergency surgery. Doctors made it clear. Years of stress, long hours, and physical neglect had finally caught up. For a man who lived on adrenaline, slowing down felt like losing his identity. During recovery, Daryl admitted how close he came to dying. He lost weight, changed his habits, and relocated to Arizona, seeking a quieter life centered on fishing, family, and his granddaughter. But even then, the pull of the auction block never fully left him. When Storage Wars returned, Daryl returned too. His bidding was calmer, his presence less aggressive, but the addiction to the rush was still there. Retirement for him was never surrender. It was survival mode. Dave Hester's story followed a different path but ended in similar isolation. From the beginning, Dave embraced conflict. His aggressive tactics and infamous catchphrase made him unforgettable, but also controversial. In 2012, he accused producers of staging outcomes and planting items to manufacture drama. He filed a lawsuit that declared war on the very franchise that made him famous. The legal battle dragged on for years, ending in a settlement with sealed details. Though Dave briefly returned afterward, trust was broken beyond repair. Eventually, he exited the show permanently and faded from mainstream attention. Once one of the loudest and wealthiest figures on screen, he transitioned into a quieter life of consulting, auctioneering, fishing, and writing. His rumored tell-all book never arrived, leaving only speculation behind. For both Daryl and Dave, winning carried consequences no locker reveal could show. One nearly lost his life chasing adrenaline. The other lost his platform chasing truth. Brandi Sheets felt the fallout differently. As Daryl's son, he grew up in the auction world. On Storage Wars, he earned the nickname, the Side Bit, known for risky moves that sometimes paid off big. For 8 seasons, he wasn't just a side character, he was a personality. Then, in 2016, he was quietly cut due to budget reductions. The decision wasn't framed as personal, but it felt deeply personal. Brandi voiced frustration online, feeling betrayed after years of loyalty. Suddenly, the show that shaped his identity was gone. He relocated, attempted real estate, then stepped further away from public life entirely. His absence from the show's revival wasn't an oversight. It was a choice. For Brandi, survival meant leaving the spotlight before it hollowed him out. Brandi Passante and Schultz represented the most visible emotional cost of fame. Their volatile chemistry made them one of the most recognizable duos on the show. Viewers watched their arguments, reconciliations, and power struggles like entertainment. But living under constant scrutiny took its toll. Their spin-off exposed how difficult it was to run a business and raise children while being watched. By 2018, their relationship ended, though the public learned much later. Brandi returned to the show alone. Jard did not. Legal trouble and personal consequences permanently altered his role. Both retreated in different directions, rebuilding separate lives away from chaos. What unites Brandi, and Jard isn't failure. It's disillusionment. Fame promised opportunity, but demanded intimacy and conflict in return. When that balance broke, family became the cost. Weiss never pretended to be authentic. He treated reality TV like theater. His eccentric confidence made him unforgettable. But when spin-offs failed and relevance faded, he faced something unfamiliar, being forgotten. In 2019, a serious motorcycle accident forced him into recovery and silence. When he returned, older and quieter, it wasn't a comeback. It was a reminder that time catches everyone. Kenny Crossley adapted differently. Former law enforcement, he diversified into music, food ventures, and self-care. Ivy Calvin chose distance, focusing on family and business. Together, their stories reveal a pattern. Survival after reality TV doesn't look like victory. It looks like adaptation. Fame didn't destroy them overnight. It faded, leaving quiet consequences behind. What often gets ignored in conversations about storage wars is the psychological aftermath of sudden fame. Reality television does not come with training on how to return to normal life once the spotlight fades. For years, these cast members lived in an environment where recognition was constant. Strangers knew their names, their personalities, even their flaws. Every auction felt important because millions were watching. When that attention disappeared, it didn't just take money with it, it took identity. The silence after fame can be louder than the noise that came before it. Several cast members have hinted at feelings of emptiness, anxiety, and disorientation once filming slowed or stopped. They were no longer introduced as television stars, but as former ones, a label that quietly eats away at confidence. Fame had once validated their decisions, their risks, their personalities. Without it, self-doubt crept in. Ordinary struggles felt heavier because they were no longer balanced by applause. This is the unseen cost of reality television. It doesn't end when the show does. It lingers in habits, expectations, and the constant comparison between who you were on screen and who you are when no one is watching anymore. Another truth rarely discussed is how reality TV blurs the line between performance and real life. Over time, cast members are rewarded for exaggeration. Conflict gets more screen time. Calm moments get edited out. Personalities slowly shift to fit what audiences react to most. For storage wars, that meant louder arguments, riskier bids, sharper insults, and higher stakes. Eventually, some cast members couldn't turn those personas off. What worked on camera didn't always work at home. Relationships suffered because behavior designed for entertainment doesn't translate into healthy communication. Financial decisions became riskier because boldness had once been rewarded. Even self-worth became tied to ratings and relevance. When the show paused, many were left with habits that no longer served them. Fame had trained them to live fast, react big, and constantly prove themselves. Learning to slow down after that is not easy. It requires unlearning years of reinforcement. Some managed to adapt, others struggled quietly. This is why post-show life often looks messy. It's not because they failed. It's because they were never taught how to stop performing once the cameras were gone. What makes these stories especially powerful is that none of these people entered storage wars expecting fame to define them. Most were already working in auctions, resale, or business long before television arrived. The show amplified their lives far beyond what they imagined. But amplification also magnifies pressure. Mistakes feel permanent. Aging feels faster. Health problems feel scarier when your body has been part of your brand. Several cast members have openly acknowledged that stress played a major role in their medical emergencies. Long shooting days, travel, public appearances, and constant scrutiny slowly wear a person down. Fame doesn't pause life's hardships. It piles on top of them. Illness, family conflict, and financial fear don't stop just because someone is on TV. In many cases, they intensify. The audience sees edited success. Behind the scenes, exhaustion builds. When the show ends, all that pressure has to go somewhere. For some, it turns into reinvention. For others, it becomes withdrawal. Both responses are human, and both deserve understanding rather than judgment. If there is one shared lesson across all original Storage Wars cast members, it is this: longevity matters more than visibility. Those who survived best were not the loudest or most dramatic, but the ones who maintained something outside the show. A business, a family anchor, or a sense of self not fully tied to television. Fame is powerful, but it is unstable. It shifts with trends, budgets, and network decisions no cast member controls. The show's hiatus proved how fragile that system is. One executive decision changed dozens of lives overnight. The cast didn't fail the industry. The industry simply moved on. That reality forces a hard truth. Entertainment values novelty, not loyalty. Understanding that earlier might have softened the fall. But hindsight is clearer than lived experience. These individuals did what most people would do when opportunity knocks. They stepped through the door. What happened after doesn't erase their success. It humanizes it. Survival after fame isn't about reclaiming spotlight. It's about reclaiming balance. So when you look at the original faces of Storage Wars today, the real question isn't whether they won or lost. It's whether the price they paid was worth the entertainment we consumed. Behind every memorable moment was a real person absorbing pressure we never saw. Health scares, broken relationships, identity loss, and forced reinvention are not plot twists. They are consequences. Reality TV made these people famous, but it also exposed them to a level of intensity few are prepared for. Some adapted, some stepped away, some are still finding their footing. None of them walked away unchanged. And perhaps that's the most honest ending to this story. Fame didn't destroy them in one dramatic collapse. It faded slowly, leaving quiet challenges behind. If this story made you see Storage Wars differently, share your thoughts below. And remember, behind every reality show is a reality we rarely get to see.